Yeah, welcome to another web platform feature of the week. So I was reading this article on web.dev about how they have improved and added a bunch of features and stuff to the webstatus.dev website. If you don't know it, it's basically like a dashboard that shows you the state of the web, which is perfect for this series that I'm doing, the newsletter and these videos. And so I started playing around with it a little bit. And one of the things you get is this usage report on the side here. So this is based on Chrome installs in the wild. But seeing that Chrome still has about 68% of the market, depending on where you look, but on a global scale, it's about 68%. That's a pretty good indication of how much a feature is used. And I was looking at WebP and AVIF, the two modern image formats, and I was really surprised by how low the percentage is. Like, especially WebP, I would have thought this would be much, much higher. Even AVIF, to be honest, but I could still kind of see why maybe that one's low, but WebP, that's interesting. So I started wondering, like, why could this be? And I thought to myself, well, there's a couple of things. One, people might not even know about WebP and AVIF. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly. It's like the A1 image format, AV1 image format, AVIF, I think, AVIF, one of those. Either way, both are modern image formats. WebP, the idea was for WebP to succeed ping, and then AV1 to supplant WebP. So there's also a little bit of competition there with AVIF. I'm just going to say AVIF with JPEG XL. But it looks like AVIF is probably going to be the successor in the end. So that is what they are. As you'll see in the the newsletter, there was a new release of the PNG format, the PNG format. Version 3 came out a couple of weeks ago. So we'll have to also see how much better it is now at compression, because that's one of the big things with WebP and AVIF is that their ability to compress your image data is vastly superior without compromising on image quality. And you'll see that in a second in this video. So with that in mind, also, we'll have to see what the new version of Ping does in that regard. One of the things that Ping also adds now that these two don't have, for example, is animated Ping. So you're not now bound to only animated GIFs or GIFs, depending on how you want to say it. You can now do the animated PNGs. That's part of the language now. So, so that's the one thing. I thought, like, maybe people just don't know about it. Well, now you know about it. But then the other thing is, maybe people don't know what the browser support's like for these, and they like, oh, these are probably still not in a place where I can use them today. There's a little note on there that we'll touch on in a second. But in terms of browser support, the support for WebP is now so good, and you can actually see here, when you look at baseline, it's baseline widely available. And if we even dig in here, we can see here that it reached baseline widely available in September of 2020. So it's been baseline since 2020. So that's, that's quite some time. And if we look at AVIF, it's been baseline since 2024, late January. So it's more than a year. It's almost a year and a half now that it has been baseline. So browser support, especially for WebP, is really good, to the point where I almost never use PNGs anymore. I almost always use WebP because the compression is so much better and the support is more than good enough than what I need. I link to can I use in the newsletter. So if you want to go check it out there and see like the exact browser versions and stuff like that when these were supported. So when support was introduced in like Chrome, Firefox, all of these, follow the links in the newsletter and you can see those. But here's the thing. maybe you're like, I'm not sure whether all my users will be able to do AVIF and maybe even WebP. There's a way you can use WebP, AVIF, and, for example, JPEG without having to compromise on any of these. You can present all of them to the browser, and the browser will pick the one it supports and load that one. So if your users are using a new enough version of whichever browser, Safari, Firefox, Edge, Chrome, it'll load it. If it doesn't know what AVIF is, but it knows what WebP is, it'll load that. And then if it doesn't understand that either, it'll load the fallback right at the end, which could be JPEG or PNG or whatever you choose it to be. How do you do that? That's the element that I want to introduce you to then this week, is the picture element. And then specifically within the picture element, we're going to use the source element along with the image element. I'll show you in a second. So first of all, web platform status. This is a great place to just see. I mean, for example, also you can, for example, go here and see everything that is baseline 2025. I made this little bookmark here. Got a link in the description. So it shows you newly available in all browsers. So these are all the newly available features across all the browsers, so Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. So there's quite a lot. I mean, there's pagination here that goes on. And the other thing is you can sort it. So if you want to sort it by most used, and then going down, you can do that too. Really, really cool. Webstatus.dev. Check it out. It's really good. I've linked this article in the newsletter as well. So go have a read there about all the things they've added. But let's get into it. So how can you use all of these formats today without negatively impacting your end users? Let's have a look. So I have an image. Let me quickly get it. Whoop, not that one, but this one of this strapping fella. And this is in JPEG, and it is 2,400 by 1,651 pixels. So it's a pretty big image, and it's 420 kilobytes at the moment. So now how do you get these other formats? Well, there's different tools, but one that I really like is Squish. So it is from the Chrome developers. It's a progressive web app, runs in your browser, and it works a treat. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our JPEG. Let me just drag and drop it in. And then let me just move myself out the way. We got these options here, and we're going to choose WebP. We're going to leave it on the defaults. So the effort's at 4 and the quality is at 75. And you can see it's dropped it 83% smaller. I'm going to click it and look at this quality. This quality is still great. And of course, you can play with it. It depends on what you need. But look what it's dropped it down to, 72 kilobytes from 420. So clearly, you can push the quality up a bit and still get a massive saving. Now let's have a look at AVIF. And I'm going to put this at a quality of 50 and an effort of 4. Look at that. It's bumped it down to 28 kilobytes, 93% smaller. And if we download that, I mean, the quality is pretty much still where we had it, right? I'm going to use these for the example, but I'll just show you. I'll bump this one up to 75%. Let's see. We're still getting 78% smaller. And look at that. Incredible. Okay, so let's have a look here. So I'm going to delete this one. So I'm going to keep the really small one, 29 kilobytes, and we have 72 kilobytes, and then we have the original JPEG at 420. Right, so squish.app. This is where you can do all of that. Now, let's jump into VS Code. And let's open up a page here, and we'll call it Modern Image Format. Let's put an H1 in here that matches that. Now, how do we do this? Right, we start with the picture element. By itself, it's just a container. Doesn't do anything. And then we're going to add a couple of things. The source element with source set, and we'll fill that in a second, and type. And that's where the magic happens, so to speak. And then just our standard image that we know and love. Image. I'm going to set the height. I'm going to set the width. And we're going to give it an alt. Sweet. Then I have already dragged the images in here. So they're in here. It's exactly the same ones that you've seen. So there's the AVIF, the JPEG, and the WebP. And you can see here when I switch between these, the AVIF, you can see there's quite a bit of smoothing happening here, but this is the one that's gone down all the way from 410 kilobytes all the way down to 27.9 kilobytes. So you can definitely bump the quality of this one up quite a bit, and you'll still be saving a lot of bytes for your users and therefore having a much, much faster web page. But we'll leave it at this for now. So this essentially how this works is it works like CSS Cascade almost, sort of. So the browser is going to start parsing the HTML. It's going to go, it's going to hit the H1. It's going to say, cool, I know what this is. It's going to output the text. Then it's going to hit the picture element. It's going to say, okay, I know what this is. So next would probably be a source. And it's like, yeah, there's a source here. Okay, what's in here? And the very first thing it's actually going to look at is the type. And so we're going to tell it image AVIF. So it's going to look at this and it's going to say, oh, do I know what this is and what I need to do with this? If it does, then essentially what it's going to do, let's go assets. Doesn't always want to autocomplete for me. So let's do, is it because, no, that's fine. Strapping fella.avif. Okay. What the browser will essentially do is like, yeah, I know what this is. And it will use this as the source of our image tag, right? But let's say it's like, I don't know what this is. It's going to ignore this whole thing. And it's going to move on to the next thing. And so here we're going to tell it it's a WebP. An image of type WebP. And maybe it's like, oh, I know what that is. Yeah. I know how to parse that. I have a image library here that can handle that. And so the browser will essentially say, cool, I'm going to use that as the source of my image, right? And if the browser is still like, I don't know, then we know JPEG is going to be supported, right? So then it's just going to fall right back down to the image right at the bottom, use our JPEG and load that up. So let's just quickly set our width and height. What did I say again? So 1651, and this was 24. And then we'll say black and white cat. They have their paws resting on a, looks like bamboo log against a green background, something like that. All right, so that is it. So as I just explained to you, this is how the browser will walk through these things and decide what to load. So I'm just going to put a little style in here. This is completely, you don't need to do this at all. Let me do block size order. This is, if you use a reset.css, this is most likely in there already. And again, don't need this, but let's just do that. Max inline size, 100%. All right, so let me open this in the browser. And of course, there's nothing super interesting here. What is interesting is if we reload here, there we can see the browser has picked the AVIF. You'll see there's no trace of the WebP or the JPEG. So it's not like you're hitting your users with 3 images. The browser will pick the one it understands, and it will load that one and only that one. So if we, for example, jump into Chrome and we do the same kind of thing here and we check out here, same thing. We have our AVIF that's loading. So just like that, you can now ensure that your users are getting a much better performance out of your website the newer the browser is that they use. And today, depending on your user base, but woof, almost I would say 60 to 70%, if it's not higher, of your users are going to see this AVIF format. And imagine you had 10 images, right, of 400 kilobytes. That is 4,000 kilobytes, which is 4 megabytes. I hope my math is correct. Let's see. 4,000 KB to MB. Yeah, 4 megabytes that you're now reducing to, let's say, 40 KB times 10. So it gives us 400 to MB, 0.4 megabytes. So you've taken 4 megabytes of images all the way down to 0.4 megabytes. Same images, same quality. What is it? Like less than a quarter of the payload and the data usage. You can just imagine this is much, much happier users with more data at the end of the month. So yeah, this is how you can use modern image formats today and just have happier users. So I hope you learned something out of this. If you didn't know about the image formats, now you know. If you didn't know about that, you could use the picture element along with sources and an image fallback to do all this stuff. Now you know. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Is this new? Are you using this already? If you are going to use it, what kind of savings are you expecting? If you think about some of your websites, web applications, maybe even where you can implement this, what kind of performance improvement is this going to give to your end users? Love to learn more from you. And until next week, when we cover some new amazing feature of the web platform, build some awesome things and keep rocking the free web. Peace.